Yes, everybody, Russ on the West End Network. Hope you are all safe and put my thing a bit closer there. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're around here, you know what to do. It's Hammers Headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. At lunchtime, I gave my thoughts around this whole Mohamed Kudus situation in terms of the release clause. We don't know what's happening with that. Florian Peltenberg's quite adamant that it's actually active this summer, which contradicts all reports we've heard. But anyway, we've got Hammers Headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. No doubt there'll be some ITKs on there giving you lots of information about that. But 3 stories, and let's start with a departure, shall we? Unfortunately, if I can press the right button, and it's Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson. So, proverbially, we've been talking about him. Well, go back, I don't know, 2 years ago, we tried to sign him as a new deal, which he rejected, and we then put in our contractual obligations for a 2-year extension, which we took out, and then we've been trying to tie him down to a new deal since. It was definitely no under the previous manager regime. Then with the appointment of Julien as head coach and obviously Tim in charge of everything, there was a maybe increased optimism that we could sign for a new deal. For me, I think he's a very good player in terms of having him as a squad member. Definitely, I don't think he'd be in our number 1 right back or number 1 left back or central midfield, but he could play a lot. He's a very useful squad member and has left a big hole apparently now. Then we were apparently offered him a 5-year deal. He rejected Crystal Palace. I think Leeds was sniffing around Everton. But according to ex-WHU employee, he said on his podcast yesterday that Ben has rejected our 5-year deal and will be signing for Ipswich Town. He turned down and be joining the Tractor Boys as they return back to the Premier League. So he is on the brink of accepting a new deal with Ipswich. Having spoken to my Ipswich Town correspondent, he won't necessarily have his own way in terms of going straight into the first team. There's a number of right backs who are there, but as he said, he's probably head and shoulders above most of options Ipswich have. So X was reported in saying that although the player hasn't put pen to paper with Ipswich just yet, it appears Ipswich offered them a great contract with clear first team opportunities. I think that is the key. I don't think they'll be offering him as much money or maybe similar money to West Ham, boyhood club, academy player, went to my local school when he was a kid. But I think it's that first team opportunity, which is what he needs for his career progression. And playing Premier League football and being maybe first choice right back as well, I think would really benefit him. It's highly unlikely that he will change his mind and will depart the club he's been at for his entire career. All that's left is the paperwork, but that will be cleared up apparently the next day or so, and then he'll be free to sign come the 30th of June. Obviously, the club, remember, when we announced our retained list, made a point of saying within there, Johnson and Mbama were both being still under contract offers in terms of not being released. So, yeah, clearly it didn't work, unfortunately. Let's talk about someone who we could be seeing, and that is Jonathan David. Now, it's a guy we've been talking about for a long time, and there were reports that, we were looking at him, but they were from less reputable sources, maybe. Apparently, we've been tracking him, and we were, as part of the plan, we was always going to try and sign him this summer. Why this summer, you may ask? Well, because it's clear our transfer strategy going into this summer is targeting players of a certain age and profile who are entering the final year of their contract in a bid to get them at knockdown prices. Jonathan David on an open market in contract, if a decent contract left in his, and his years left in his contract, you'd be looking at about 50 million quid, I'd suggest. Now, he enters his final 12 months now. So you can get him for a knockdown price. Could be 20 million pounds, for example. So there's a real, and that's what I was saying. The free transfer market is okay, but the sort of the final year contract transfer list, so to speak, is very, very tasty this season. I'm not saying we, in a good year we could have bought Jonathan David for his full whack, but actually the plan apparently was always to approach and sign him this summer. So he fits within our budget, whatever budget we may have, and similarly, it does open him up to others. We know Chelsea are heavily linked with him. But he's been someone that Steinton's always identified, apparently, and he's still pushing for David. In fact, according to Florian Piltenberg, again, he's been busy, but we know he does have the ear of Steinton. Because don't forget, he did that interview with Tim when they were talking about the Liverpool job 6 months ago, wasn't it? He says that West Ham, unperturbed, apparently, which is a good word, by Chelsea's interest, and they are pressing ahead with gathering information about what's needed to get a deal done. And it could be, according to Florian, as little as £16 million. We know he's also on the shortlist of Man United. As a Chelsea have inquired about him in the recent days, and West Ham have also gathered information. There's 1 year left in his contract. Apparently, Jonathan David was on West Ham's radar since last summer originally. So the summer before last, my apologies. But Newman and Moyes elected to sign Gianluca Scamacca instead. Well, there we go. Thankfully, not Scott McTominay, as he was saying on his commentary. And lastly, let's have a bit of academy news. Some really interesting tidbits from X as well. He's been a busy man today. We are but days away from a raft of new academy players joining, as well as new contracts being agreed for various. Obviously, we know that some players have left, like Dan Chesters has left, Jacob Knightbridge has left, and have gone on to pastures green. Obviously, we know someone like Joseph Anang, obviously not. Well, he did play a few under-21s in the International Cup last year. He's joined St Patrick's Athletic in Ireland, where he was on loan last one season, I believe it was. But according to X, he says that West Ham are set to announce new deals for academy players this week. The headline act, so to speak, is Lewis Brown, Kenny Brown's son, who will continue a family tradition of Browns playing for West Ham. Obviously, his dad is the current academy manager, and he played for the club for 5 years. Scored the winner against Man United, stopped them winning the league, if you remember. And obviously, his dad, Lewis's granddad, is Ken Brown, who played. He's currently the oldest living West Ham player, and obviously played along with Bobby Moore for the best part of 14 years, and obviously made one England appearance. If you saw our video we did a couple of weeks ago about West Ham players who have played for England whilst playing for West Ham, he had one cap. I believe it was in 1953. If I'm right in correcting. Also, actually, worth saying with Lewis. Lewis was was with Arsenal for many years and was released by Arsenal. Was trialling with West Ham last season, and was integrating himself very nicely within the 18s and 21 setup. Now, also, Tyrone Ekpata, he signed a new deal with the club to extend his spell at West Ham. He's been at the club since 14, I think about 14. And also, apparently on Friday, the club will also be announcing the signing of 2 under-18 players, Majid Balogun from Manchester United and David Chigueda from Man City. Balogun apparently is a talented forward of Nigerian descendants, and shone for Manchester United when they won the prestigious Albert Phelan Cup in 2022, scoring in the showcase final against Aston Villa. Chikwanda is a forward also, and will look to form an explosive partnership potentially with Balogun. Chikwanda joined City from Blackburn in 2022, and it's said to apparently be a very tricky and entertaining player. This goes alongside, in terms of in my opinion, the strategy going forward from the 18s and the 21s. We've let people also like Jeremy Mulu go, who was obviously in the 21s. You've also got Josh Ajala, who the club rested a lot of hopes on. I imagine he'll be moving up to the 21s. He's been obviously in the 18s, but I imagine he will be doing more within the under 21s, which leaves a little bit of a gap really for sort of young forwards in the 18s particularly. And by the sounds of it, they're bringing in David and Majid to bring some more quality into that under 18 strike force, and then move up. Obviously, you've got Callum Marshall. We're still discussing about Divine and Barmer, but obviously imagine Callum might get more game time. Obviously, Josh will be moving up to the 21s, I'd imagine. And obviously George is still the under 21/first team as well. So there's people there. Obviously, they let people like Liam Jones, Steve Jones' son, went. He was obviously more of a forward player as well. But he did play a bit in centre, like defence as well. But it does seem there's a strategy in place, and it's exciting. Obviously, if you can get along to any of the games for the academy, it's great fun as well. And we're doing even more of that next season with the academy and Kenny and all that lot, and on the old 1s and 2s as per usual. I'll be. Anyway, guys, thank you very, very much for your time. Quite an interesting mixed bag of news today, I think. And Florian Pettenberg has been quite busy. Annex has been quite busy as well. But anyway, don't forget to check out theseareMybrand.com. Take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, and come on, you bloody, bloody irons. Much love.